Rev up your engines! Here's a new Honda Civic Sport. Guy had kind of a rip-off deal at the dealer I'll talk about, and we'll talk about the whole car, what you get and what he likes and what he doesn't like. Right off the bat, the dealer added $5 grand, and their excuse was, well, we have it here, so we're adding $5 grand to the price of the car. But to add insult to injury, he ended up paying about $34,700. Considering that the sticker price said 24 grand, it's kind of a rip-off. Of course, it is Connecticut, now the East Coast, where people love ripping people off. It seems to be a thing they do all the time. It's a good car, there's no arguing that. But he had to overpay for it. Now, it is a Civic Sport. I kind of like the gray color, and it's a 4-door, so it's got room in the back too. It's got a nice little hatch trunk. It's a nice looking car, and it's a Honda Civic. Honda probably makes the best engines in the world. They make more engines than anybody. This particular one is a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine. It's not one of these tiny little 1.5 ones. It's a decent size. It's not turbocharged, but it's also a standard transmission, a manual transmission, right? Got plenty of get up and go, yet at the same time, when you drove it here from Connecticut, you got about 40 miles a gallon on a highway. You can't argue the speed versus the gas mileage versus the fact it's a 2-liter Honda engine. Honda S2000s. Those things were screaming cars. It's a very similar engine that's in them. They're fun to drive. They last. They get great gas mileage. And I like it because it's not cluttered. Look, there's a lot of room. Now, the funny thing is, there's a lot of working room. But let's face it, it's a Honda. They don't break down very often, so you really don't have to get under there all that much. But if you do, you can. And if you're the type of person who wants to modify it, and you can put a turbocharger, supercharger, whatever you want. In this case, it's the man's daughter's car. She just likes driving around. She's not going to soup it up or anything. You can if you want, but you don't have to. Now, what the father doesn't like, and I agree, is it's got these low-profile tires. He doesn't like the relatively rough ride, but he's a smart man. He did pay $8 a month on the payment for the rims and the tires. Because those low-profile tires, you hit chunks in the road. Well, I gotta say, at least, he lives in Connecticut, and the roads in Connecticut are quite a bit better than the ones at least in Rhode Island. Rhode Island's always voted the worst roads in the nation, so it's the East Coast, and you're gonna hit stuff, and you're gonna eat up rims and tires. If you're gonna have these, really, pay the $8 a month. It's worth it. They can't argue it's an insurance policy that says if they're broken, they're broken. They can't say, well, you ran into something. That's what the insurance is for. Get inside. Look, it greeted us when we sat down inside, right? He doesn't like the electric parking brake. It confuses him because he's old school like me. You get on a hill, it'll kind of put itself on so you don't roll backwards. You're driving a standard trend, you're usually compensating for a little roll. You don't have to do that. And he still says, I don't like that electric parking brake. I'm not used to the thing. When he brought it here and put it on, it started rolling back, and I had to quick come in and pull it on. I don't like that electric stuff, but heck, they're all going that way, so there's not much you can do. You know, it's a Civic. It's a relatively economy car. You can set things up to get a little bit better gas mileage. Got monster-sized cup holders. Pretty ergonomic design. Now, I'm not a fan of sit-up screen. To me, it kind of looks like you just stuck an iPad on the dash, but a lot of the Japanese companies, they kind of do it as a second thought. You can see it's really not integrated with the style of the dash. I'd rather have one built in. Start her up. And those hoods open because we have the hood open. And it's got a nice setup. You got your tachometer, speedometer, and then you have the digital readout there. It's got a decent stereo system. You heard the guy's voice starting up, but I can't play other people's things or they'll infringe on their rights, so I don't play them in the videos. But it does have a nice sound system. It's missing a sunroof, and I say, who cares? I find sunroofs to be annoying. It's either too hot outside or too cold outside, or it's raining, or then when it does rain, they eventually drip into the car. They roll the windows down. I find sunroofs to be kind of a ridiculous thing. A lot of people, oh, we got a sunroof. And I go, what do you really need it for? All it does when you open it up and it's hot outside, the sun gets in and makes it even hotter. I like the old school pedals, chrome and black. Love the louvers. We'll turn the fan on. You can move them all over the place. You can blow all kinds of places. I like the design, and I like the little throttle inside. That you can really move it anywhere you want. No more trying to get it just in the right place. You can here, because it swivels all around. Interesting design. And it's got a relatively basic screen. I do have to say that the $150 pumpkin Android I put in my wife's Matrix does a heck of a lot more than this thing does. And that's ages ago, years ago I put it in. So, you know, they could have added a little bit more on that if you ask me. But as you can see, smooth running Honda engine. And realize this, people made a big to-do a few years back about Honda engines and oil dilution problems. Well, this engine doesn't have any of those problems. It doesn't have all that extra pressure blowing everything through. And even the new Hondas, they don't have a problem with it because the new GF6 oil takes care of it. And even in one of these, I'd run the GF6 oil because it's a great oil, makes things last longer. Engines cost a lot of money. Oil is relatively cheap. Just change your oil, use that, say, every 5,000 miles. Because unlike a lot of engines out today, you see the GMs, the Chryslers, they're burning oil when they get just 20, 30,000 miles, and they say, well, that's normal, right? That's not normal for Hondas. You take care of one of these engines. I got people bringing me these 2-liter engines, 160,000 miles. They don't burn a drop of oil because they change the oil every 5,000 miles. You take care of one of these Hondas, they can last you an awful long time. Now, the father's personally a little bit kind of off with all the crazy electronics, electric braking, the keyless ignition. So he paid about $1,000 extra for a 100,000-mile warranty on all the electronics. It's got the headlights that are high beam. They automatically turn themselves down. I mean, there's all kinds of computer stuff on these. Realize that. This is not a car you want to drive through deep water, to say the least. If it's raining, drive it to the top of a parking lot and go have a drink or something. Don't try to make it through deep water. You'll destroy the car. It's low to the ground. It's got all kinds of electronics in it. And if you're worried like him, hey, and you live on the coast next to the ocean, maybe it's not a bad idea to pay $1,000 for the whole 100,000-mile warranty on all the electronics, because it's chock full of electronics like any modern car. Take it for a spin. Now, it does have this crazy electric parking brake stuff, so turn that off. And it is a 6-speed transmission. Now, it's got a relatively good backup camera, I gotta say. I just don't like the idea that this thing is sticking up. To me, it just looks out of place. I wish they would have made a dash where it was integrated. I like the integrated dashes better. It doesn't seem extremely low to the ground. It's low, but not extremely low. And they are fun handling. Now, he doesn't like the highway set up for these electronic power steering, and I'm not a big fan of them either. I like the old systems, but they're all going to electronics, so there's much you can do about that. Well, the owner just informed me that even though they charged him $5,000 extra and then $1,500 for this waxy deal, they did throw in 4 free oil changes. And here we go. It's got a nice response to it. It's a fun little car to drive. Now, it's not like a Civic Type R that's an absolute screaming monster, but it gets you where you're going, and you get 40 miles a gallon on the highway. You really can't argue against that. He's got a plumbing business, but he doesn't travel far, maybe 100 miles in a day. So he wanted to get one of these Ford electric transit vans that they're going to be working. He put down $1,000, and they said it's going to be $53,000 when we build them. Might be a year or two. So he put his deposit down, right? Well, he just got a letter the other day, and they informed him that, well, if you still want to get it, it's now $88,000. I mean, it amazes me, the greed of these companies. Almost $10,000 over sticker for this Civic. These guys are just gouging everybody. Listen to Scotty, wait if you can. Now, he couldn't wait for this because somebody stole his daughter's other car. All the airbags deployed, and they totaled it, so they had to get a car. So they didn't have too much choice here. And they did look at used cars, but they were so ridiculous. They found a Civic, had 90,000 miles. They wanted $24,000 for them, which is the list price of the new one. So they just bought a new one instead. Remember my advice, at least for now. Well, I don't know. You may be watching this in the future and it'll all change, but don't buy a car right now if you don't have to. The recession's going to come. Prices are going to start tumbling down. Everything's going to start tumbling down. And then all these people that think, well, we're going to make these for $53,000 like the Ford, and then send you a letter. No, it's going to be $88,000 now. I mean, see how it all pans out when the literal crap hits the fan, giving in the cars that they can't afford anymore, and the market is glutted with people trying to sell houses and cars. Believe me, the prices will come down then. But as it stands for the car itself, it's an excellent example of Honda engineering. Fun to drive, zippy, gets 40 miles a gallon on a highway. I'm not a fan of the low profile tires, but a lot of people are going for that. They do handle better. Now, they ride a little bit rougher. It is a sport, though. Think about it. Like Toyota, Okay, they got the Toyota Camry, then they got the Toyota Camry TRD. My wife loves the new Camrys. She went in the TRD and she hated it because it had a rougher ride. I liked it because it handled better. So in the case of this, you want the handling, get a Sport. On the other hand, if you want it smoother, just get a plain old one. You don't want to drive a standard. 96% of Americans drive automatics. You'll get one that has a CVT transmission instead of a standard transmission. As the owner of this told me, the dealer only gets one of these a year. So that's one of the reasons they marked it up. They said, oh, there's guys behind waiting to buy this car, so they mark it up because they know it's a standard and zippy, and it's a sport model, so they know somebody's going to buy that car. They only get one of them a year. It's not like they got to sell hundreds of them. And if you only have one, guess what? You're going to raise the price. That's just how it works. For those of you who don't follow the crowd, like his daughter, her Acura that got stolen was a standard. This is a standard. She loves driving the car. There's drivers out there that want a car like this, just like the reason Toyota makes a limited amount of TRD Camrys is because there's a limited amount of people that want a sporty Camry, and they're not as boring. They got nice red racing stuff inside. They handle a lot better, a rougher ride, but they handle better. So you're looking for a sporty Civic, you really can't go wrong with one of these. The only problem is the price, and believe me, if you wait, I guarantee you the price is going to have to come down. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.